Right. Uh, Thank you, everyone. Thank you, AIOS, and thank you, Professor Kamaljit sir and Shrikant sir, for giving me this opportunity for this instruction course. I'll be talking on CRVO and HRVO, central retinal vein occlusion and hemiretinal vein occlusion, and the role of laser in these patients. So, starting central retinal vein occlusion, we know that is a occlusion of the main retinal vein posterior to the lamina crabrosa of the optic nerve, and a hemiretinal vein occlusion occurs in patients who have uh, two trunks of the central retinal vein, which has bifurcated much before the lamina cribrosa. So, CRVO will present in our clinic with a sudden painless loss of vision with RAPD may or may not be present. Disc swelling is there, dilated tortuous veins are there, dense hemorrhages are there, and macular edema is there, which is the main cause of vision blurring initially. The ischemic or the hemorrhagic retinopathy or the ischemic CRVO, clinically you can know that it's a ischemic one by the poor visual acuity, which may be less than 6/60, RAPD in the affected eye, then very dense hemorrhages with multiple cotton wool spots. And if we do a angiography, it will be more than 10 disc areas of the CNP areas. Uh, the non-ischemic or the venous stasis retinopathy will have lesser hemorrhages, will not have a RAPD, and similarly the vision will be better, the macular edema will be less severe. So all these conditions will give you a hint that this one is a non-ischemic one. Uh, uh, if even if we see a non-ischemic CRVO, we have to be careful because these eyes will may convert into ischemic CRVO, and this may happen into 30% of the cases over a period of 3 years. In our clinic, when a patient comes, we will do an OCT initially to see the macular edema because the cause of vision loss is mainly macular edema, and we would like to know the severity of the macular edema and hence accordingly decide about the injections. Injections we know is the first line of treatment these days, but right now we are talking about lasers, so I'll be concentrating more on lasers. But the OCT has become a very important tool for us in the OPD to find out what the prognosis of the case is, because the integrity of the ellipsoid zone and the photoreceptor layer can give you big hints on how the patient will respond to the anti-VEGF therapy. And also, subsequently, response of treatment can be seen on the OCT. The systemic workup on the first visit of the patient in the clinic is very important. CRVO, as we know, happens to most elderly individuals more than 60 years of age who are already comorbid with diabetes or hypertension. So we would not worry too much about them investigating them too much, but we would like to do some further investigations in young patients less than 50 years of age who are presenting with a CRVO. It might be non-ischemic or ischemic, it doesn't matter. But we would like to rule out hematological disorders, infectious diseases, hyperlipidemia, vasculitis, and many other. So diabetes and hypertension also in young patients, sometimes the patient will present and it will be the first time they will be discovering that they have the disease. Also, ocular associations with CRVO are there. We know that primary open angle glaucoma is associated with the CRVO, and sometimes the patients are diagnosed with glaucoma when they present with the CRVO. Pseudoexfoliation, optic nerve head drusen. This is a beautiful picture of both the eyes having an optic disc drusen, where the right eye has ended up with a CRVO. Also hypermetropia and orbital disease, which can put some compression retroorbitally and cause a CRVO. So talking about the landmark study that we had, the central vein occlusion study, they gave us the landmark questions were answered by this study as to when the macular edema has to be treated, whether to be treated or not treated, and then the ischemic CRVO, what kind of a panretinal photocoagulation is to be done, and when it is to be done, whether we wait for the neovascularization of the iris to come or whether we do it before. So the groups were assigned and subsequently results were given, and we will be talking about them as we go further in the presentation. Talking about the macular edema first, we want to know that macular edema was the main cause of vision loss initially when a patient presented with a acute CRVO. So corticosteroids were tried and they were very successful initially, reducing the macular edema and increasing the vision. So the SCORE trial, the Geneva trial, all these were done, and it had very good results. Evaluation of the grid pattern photocoagulation for macular edema and central vein occlusion did not support or recommend a macular grid photocoagulation, because the patients who underwent photocoagulation and those who did not undergo any treatment, the visual acuity difference at the end was not significant, and therefore it was said that grid photocoagulation for the macular edema is not advised. The anti-VEGF intravitreal therapy of ranibizumab, aflibercept, bevacizumab are the currently main line of treatment in the macular edema, and there have been so many studies being going on, and they are in the course also, that have time and again told us that they are very effective treatments for the macular edema. Coming on to the angiography in CRVO, which becomes a very important tool in finding out if it is a ischemic or a non-ischemic CRVO, and therefore the delayed arm to retina time, prolonged AV transit, capillary dropouts, and extent of the CNP areas are the most likely things that we want to know on an FFA, so that we can find out if it is a ischemic CRVO or not. So early phase FFA is not very informative in the sense that we don't see CNP areas clearly because of the hemorrhages, and the disc leaks make them hazy. In the late phase, after 2 or 3 months, when you do a FFA, you can clearly see the CNP areas. So if the CNP areas are more than 30 disc diameters, it becomes borderline, and we need to do a PRP. In our Indian settings, we follow up the patient closely and do regular monitoring to see for NVI and NVA. Although in an Indian scenario, if you have extensive CNP areas on angiography, you right away go for a pan-retinal photocoagulation and do not wait for a NVI or a NVA, because we know that sometimes the patient lose follow-up, and when they come back, they have an extensive neovascular glaucoma, and then intervening becomes very difficult, and you can't do very effective pan-retinal photocoagulation. So once you have the time and you see CNP areas that are extensive, then you should immediately go for a PRP with multiple sittings and settle the disease then and there. Doing a gonioscopy at every follow-up is very important, because some patients with FFA they can't afford, or you can't see many ischemic areas. Gonioscopy is a very good tool. I'll just take 2 minutes. Gonioscopy is a very effective tool, and the new vessels regress as soon as the PRP is initiated. So the pan-retinal photocoagulation is done in multiple sittings with the sophisticated green and yellow lasers that are there now. And the CVOS study suggested that just a minute, sir, just a minute.
Sum up.
Yeah. Initially, the CVOS study.
Stick to the time.
Coordinator, we have a lot of time here because we have panel discussion. So let them continue for 1 or 2 minutes, please.
So the CVOS study, thank you, sir. Thank you. The CVOS studies said that the pan-retinal photocoagulation should be done only when you have an NVI and an NVA. But further down the lane, many studies were done, and a study by Lee et al., it was a review of literature basically, where he did a systematic review of all the studies that have been done on pan-retinal photocoagulation for ischemic CRVO, and he looked into all the complications of the neovessels of the retina, disc, iris, angle, and the vitreous hemorrhage, changes in visual acuity, macular thickness, and intraocular pressure were considered. And he was of the opinion, after reviewing everything, that laser photocoagulation did not appear to increase the vision of the patient, but it did prevent significantly the complications of the cases that were subjected to ischemia. So virtually all the complications of neovascular glaucoma were eliminated by doing PRP early, and laser photocoagulation also increased the retinal blood flow in eyes with ischemic CRVO. So all in all, with all the review of literature and this systematic review, we should do pan-retinal photocoagulation as soon as we are sure that the patient has a ischemic CRVO. Initiating it prevents a lot of complications of neovascular glaucoma and fields restrictions and all that. So I would like everybody to take this point from this presentation, that the PRP is important to be done at the right time. And with the anti-VEGFs for macular edema, I don't think right now we should be going for grid macular photocoagulation. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Dr.